Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the boardroom. I'm Charles Horton. We did introductions earlier, I'm also a serial entrepreneur. I started in high school mowing lawns, cashing checks, and anything that I could do to make a living. I even babysat for $1 an hour. Does anybody babysit for $1 an hour anymore? And if you know me, or if you know me at all, you know you wouldn't want to pay me anything to babysit. You don't want me around your kids at all.
Hold on. The string fails me. Sorry. I don't know what happened, but my string failed.
Shall I just keep going?
No, we're going to start over.
Okay.
I don't know, do a dance. All right. Let's see here. Okay. I don't know what happened. It just went black on me. Oh, shit. Now it's.
Plug it in.
Yeah, now it's showing it. Okay. All right. Position 1. Give it a second here. As soon as it catches up, we'll go live. All right. Here we go.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the boardroom. We were doing introductions earlier. I'm also a serial entrepreneur, started at a young age doing things like mowing lawns, cashing checks, cleaning pools, and babysitting, whatever I could do to make a buck. At one point, as I was 15, 16 years old, I was cashing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of checks in a flea market in Austin, Texas. I couldn't even drive at the time and had to hire a driver, but I was making $5,000, $10,000 a day cashing checks back then, cashing hundreds of thousands of dollars of checks at 10%. Learned that if the checks bounce, I make more money, and that kind of turned into my main business throughout my 20s. I started a check verification guarantee business, became the 8th largest in the country, sold that out to Telecheck right in the year 2000, and if you look at check writing in the USA, I timed it perfectly because check writing peaked and has gone down ever since. I have a checkbook, but I may write 1 or 2 checks a year now. I'm glad I'm not in the check verification guarantee business anymore. I thought I was retiring for life at that point at the ripe old age of 30. I had set a goal to being a millionaire by the time I was 30, hit the goal within a couple of months, and thought I was retiring. Got really depressed, realized that my life was about doing things and mentoring people and creating businesses, so I started another company. And it was a business that I had guaranteed checks for, the loan business. I've now been doing that loan business since the year 2000, so going on 18 years now. And we do over 100,000 transactions a year doing installment loans and title loans. When we're doing our networking here, I always say to ask everybody what they're looking for because a lot of business deals have come. For the first time in about a decade, I'm actually out looking for things. So I found out a new way to market my business called live checks. So we use the credit bureau data to figure out who our customers are, and we send a live check to those customers. If they sign the check and deposit it, then they have entered into the loan legally. And that has done phenomenally well. I've been doing it since January, and we have done record-breaking numbers, and we are currently out of cash. We used to be banked by Banco Popular, had a $10 million, I think it was $8 million at our maximum line of credit. When President Obama came in, he did not like our industry at all and swore to get rid of it. As part of that process, all of the banks, every single bank left our industry, and no one will lend to them even today. We keep hoping it will change, but so far the banks are not getting back into our industry. So we're all privately funded. I've had friends funds for years that basically lend money to the company, and then we lend it back out. These are relationships now going back 10 and 20 years. For the first time in a long time, we're looking for for people that want a monthly interest check loaning to us that we turn around and lend back out. So if you're an accredited investor and you'd like to put some money to work, love to have you in. It is relatively liquid in that you can move it out during the March, April, May period. That's when we're at a low because people get their income tax checks. So during that period, you can take it out on an annual basis if you like, or add to it at any time, and we do pay a fixed interest check each month on that. So if you're interested in that, then please give me a contact. Talk about the boardroom real quick. We are here primarily as a think tank. We're not soliciting investments at all, except to accredited investors that may be on the panel. So anything that you're hearing in here, this is not a pitch for you to invest, whether you be in the audience or live. It's not a pitch for you to invest into the business. This is more of a think tank to help the businesses out. But at the same time, we do have accredited investors that are on the panel, and we are all looking for good deals ourselves too. Jesse will be our presenter tonight. You know that no one signed non-disclosure agreements or anything like that, so be sure, even with questions, if there's something you don't want to share without a non-disclosure agreement being in place, be sure and do that. This is permanently out there on the web, so anything you say is available to anybody. We're not like the Shark Tank in that we're going to say, I'll give you this, take it today, or you're dead to us. That's not how we work. We can be entertaining sometimes, but really what we're here is for business education for both the panelists and the audience. So when we give advice, we're going to do that to help you learn too, and I hope that's why a lot of you come back, is because it's a great avenue to learn about business. How we work is we allow up to a 15-minute presentation from our presenter, and we'll be quiet and honor your 15 minutes. Then the panelists will ask up to 15 minutes worth of questions. So we'll go panelist by panelist and ask questions, and of course you answer them at that time. During the third round, which is also roughly 15 minutes, we do advice. So during the advice phase, you're not allowed to talk at all. So you have to stand up here, they can't ask you questions, and you just have to listen, you can't be defensive, and each of the panelists will give their advice. And then one of the best parts is we go to the audience. So we're gonna want you to give advice too, but remember, it is advice at this stage, so please don't ask any questions. If you do wanna give advice, then please stand up, wait to talk until you have the microphone, and look into this camera and give your advice. I'm a big believer in Think and Grow Rich. Who's read Think and Grow Rich? I'm a big believer in the mastermind concept, and a lot of good information comes out of both the panelists and the audience. So without any further ado, let's give Jesse with See Here Inc. a big round of applause. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to be up here in front of you guys and ladies. First thing I want to do is, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but we produced a video, and it's a 2-minute video, and I'll get it going here. Let's see. There's no sound. Matt, there's no sound.
The internet, as we know it today, started almost 30 years ago. This transformed our world and how we interact with companies, organizations, and each other. And since that time, so much about the internet has changed. It's gone mobile, it's gotten more visual, it's gotten faster, and it's gotten way, way bigger. What hasn't changed? The image file. This ubiquitous group of ones and zeros make up almost every graphic you see on the internet. And for 30 years, this integral part of the internet has only been able to carry one thing: visual data. But because of an innovative, well-run startup in Dallas, Texas, it can now carry at least two. What is the second thing? Sound. It can carry sound. Sound without the full movie conversion. Sound without limits. Why is that important? Why even try to carry sound? With the ability to add audio annotation to any image file, you can carry more than just sound. You can carry the hopes of over 7 million visually impaired people in the United States alone who demand the same user experience as everyone else. You can carry real copyright protection for photographers, artists, designers, and anyone who makes imagery for a living. You can carry medical information in an X-ray or MRI scan. You can carry voice authentication as the signature in any document. Ultimately, there is no limit to what you can carry. We are going to start with WordPress. Originally designed for blogging, WordPress is a web-based content management system that has proliferated into running over a quarter of the internet. Our team will code this technology into an installable plugin. So immediately, out of the gate, 26% of existing websites will have the potential to be ADA compliant in a way that was unheard of before See Here. And we believe we are just scratching the surface. We are See Here, and thanks for hearing us out.
In case you haven't noticed, you might have recognized that voice. It belongs to Ken Lusinger. He helped us get this done pretty quickly for us. A couple of things I want to share with you is we've raised $142,000, almost $142,400 or so in friends and family, and that's allowed us to do a number of things. It's allowed us to get the product from demo state to an actual codec for that's what our product is all about, is a coding and decoding application. And we've also got it to where it can be on mobile devices. So we've already got a lot done, but we're at that point where we really need the rocket fuel to really get us going, like the video said, to get the WordPress plugins developed and to really do some really cool things. I don't want to give you a whole history of codecs, and you know, that's all a bunch of BS. The main thing I want you, it's not BS, but they make a lot of money for people. And the biggest one is the MPEG LA group, and they license the MPEG movies that you watch. Every device that you have, every phone, mobile device you have, has paid a licensing fee to the MPEG LA group. Well, the only point I want you to get out of this is that Google had purchased a small little company called ON2 for their, whoops, let me back up, for their video compression. And they paid $109 million for it in 2009. Then they joined the MPEG LA group in 2012. And so their technology has become instrumental in what Apple is doing today with their iOS phones. So, but the point is, they paid $109 million for a codec to a small company. How we got started was back in 2015, Adina, back here, she was working with her husband, Butch, on a blog for David Reagan, a NASCAR driver, and they wanted to. She wanted to put audio on a picture, and the only way she could do that, and everything she could find out about it, was to make a movie out of it. She'd have to make an MPEG-4 file. She didn't want a movie file. Movies take up a lot of space, and they require a lot more. Oh, standing off to the side. Okay, they take up space, and they take up transmission bandwidth on your wireless device, and so that's an issue. So when you have, we created a sample file for an e-commerce site just for sample purposes, so we test the size of our file for our image and our audio versus a video file. And the sample, the inputs were 242 kilobyte JPEG file and a 584 kilobyte sound file. When you add those things together, do you really get 826 kilobytes when you put them together in a movie or whatever? No. You end up with a 7.7 megabyte file. Ideally, you would end up, it would be great if you could have something much smaller than that and be able to transmit it. So in her case, she was asking if she could have this, image of David Reagan's car and sound, and the only way she could do it is with a movie. And she called me about that, and I was like, only way I know how to do it is make a movie file. And then she said, what if we could create our own format? What if we could create our own codec, basically, is what she was asking. So I went, wow, well, that'd be great. So I called up my buddy, Taha Cadado. He's a data architect. He happens to be he works out at State Farm right now. But I asked him, hey, can you put one together, a demo or a proof of concept? And he said, oh, sure, yeah, I can do something like that. We can do something like that. And sure enough, he did. And he came up with this simple one where we just created a little demo file to show people and hoping to raise money with it. And it was David Reagan in his helmet, and basically it just played a little bit of, so bad. Okay. Anyway, it played Speed Racer, and so that's what we were showing to the crowd. It played Speed Racer, and it was a very small file. It was less than a megabyte, the way it was built. So now we had to build a real codec. We had to actually build the real thing. So Taha contacted his buddy, Simon Gong, who's a software architect, and he develops codec. He's done codecs before. And so he said, yeah, we can build this thing. So he spent a few months, and he developed our web server API. And it just happens, this API, we can merge a lot of different file types. And we have patent pending, we've got a patent pending on this, and it could be issued in the next week or two. But in this case, what we're going to be doing since we're going to we want to be ADA compliant, we're going to be merging image, audio, and text. And then we'll encode it, and then when we stream it back down, it'll be decoded so that it'll work on all the different web browsers. And when it decodes, it's back to the native format. So it can be a text file, image, it could be a ping, it could be an animated GIF even. Imagine animated GIFs with audio, So you can do that. He also developed a desktop batch creator program, which will allow you to merge the audio, the text, and the image together very quickly. I mean, in like a few seconds, it'll generate, I don't know, something like 30 or 40 files, very quick. And what we want to do when we talk about the money, what we're going to want to do with that is really dress these things up, make them look more user-friendly. But the point is, we have functional applications already working. We will need some money to dress them up, get user experience on them, and make them easier to use. We also have the applications working on in your mobile devices, both iPhone and Android. Oh, back to that one. The key thing you should know about that is the code resides in the mobile device. So we have it where you can encode and decode on the mobile device. And the key to that is that it's speed. You don't have to worry. It's not all the processing takes place here. It's not talking to another server. So back to the original, the sample that we created. It was just a balance sheet we created. We had voiceover where we took some liberties with Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run, and had that in the background, and it had voiceover, which talked about promoting the shoe. We can't really play that in here because we took liberties with the song, so licensed software. But basically, again, it's a 242 kilobyte file with a 584 kilobyte file, and our output is 826 kilobytes. That's what our file is. So when you look at it, our files are anywhere from 4 to 7 times smaller, or 9 times smaller, depending on what compressor you use. Which makes a big difference when you're transmitting to a mobile device. You're talking, you know, a few seconds with our file versus maybe a minute with a mobile device, with a movie. Our software is patent pending. Our patent attorneys are Monk, Wilson, Mandela. They do all of and Gregory Howson is our patent attorney. And they do a lot of the patents for Samsung North America. So we felt like we're in very good hands with these guys. He and Keith Harden, they've done a lot of good work for us. They created about 80 pages worth of documents that we sent to the patent office. Over 55 of them, you know, text, 5 pages of claims, and about 30 pages of the drawings. So, and we should be hearing back from them in the next couple of weeks. We just underwent a review with the examiner, and after the conference call, they said they felt real good. It's probably going to be within the next 2 weeks we should get our patent. So, how are we going to market this? Who are we going to sell it to? We're going to be selling it. We're going to be marketing pretty much to the WordPress developer groups. As of actually, as of today, you know, it's 99 million instead of 97 million. But 99 million updates have taken place to upgrade web servers to the latest version of WordPress. So, which only leaves maybe 2 or 3 million websites out there that haven't been updated using WordPress. So that's a pretty significant number right there. So that means there's over almost 100 million websites out there that could use our technology once we get the plugins ready for it. In the world, there's 521,000 members of a WordPress developer group somewhere in the world. Here in the United States, about 40% of those are here in the U.S., and 11,000 of them are right here in the North Texas area, in the 4-county region of Dallas, Tarrant, Collin, and Denton counties. Those counties, we have 11,000 potential customers right now. You know, that we're going to be going to user group meetings and what have you. And that's part of what we want the money for, sponsoring user group meetings. So basically, we're at that point where we really need to raise about $650,000 to get us through the rest of this year and get us to the market and get us to generating revenue. $1 million would probably, well, back up here. Before I get to that one, what I want you to know about this is that we're only talking, to get to $3 million, if we set that as a goal, $3 million in revenue, we need to sell about 80,000 licenses. And there's 100 million websites, 40 million roughly in the United States. But we need about, we only need about 23,000 customers. And there's 11,000 right here in North Texas, about 20,000 in the state of Texas, potential customers. So when we go and start marketing this, we're going to be pinpoint marketing to WordPress developers around the country. That's our first target. And that's why we're asking for some, you know, lots of money. I got a $120,000 advertising budget, marketing budget, just to go straight to those people. I'll just skip through here. I want to get to, this is a sample of a widget, because in WordPress they're called widgets. This is kind of an idea of a widget that we might use, where it's just a carousel of images. That's one idea. Or it can be a single slider right there, you know, just one image right after another. And you can play the sounds by either rolling over the icon or clicking on it. It's however you set, because this is going to be HTML5 and CSS3 enabled kind of stuff. You can set however you want those things to work. So, and I'm just gonna play a little sample of what we visited with some guys that have homes for dementia patients and for Alzheimer's patients. And so one of the ideas we thought, well, hey, you know, you could have something that would work, that would help them remember their family members. And we thought, okay, we could simulate that. So that's what this does. Well, it doesn't. It didn't play. Okay. Anyway, she goes, hi, hello, Granddaddy. So anyway. So back to that. We need $660,000 to get us to revenue. And to get us to where we're self-sufficient, we would, and you've got this right now, you've got this list here in your packet. It shows you all how we break out the expenses. But we need $1 million to get us to be self-sufficient, the way we see it. And a lot of that money is going to be also going toward our patent attorneys, because we've got some new things that need to be patented. And next year, we will need to go worldwide with our patent. So we'll have to pay some licensing fees there. I've got set aside around $350,000 to $400,000 just for worldwide patents. That's it.
Give Jesse a big round of applause. Stay in front of, at least there, so you're on the camera.
Yeah.
And Dylan, you get to start the round with questions. No advice, only questions.
Okay, thank you. So I have a lot of questions. And so being in this space of disabilities, I was actually hoping to hear an example. That is, you know, I'm a visual person, but I'm also a person with deaf and hard of hearing background. I really wanted to see an example. That was something that, do you have an example? Is there something that, do you have a minimal viable product that could be shared? Is there something that you have, or is it something that I can see on another date? Because to me, it's important from a standpoint to actually feel the experience when using such widget or plugin that you say. Do you have such?
I have something I can show you a little bit of on my laptop. I couldn't, for some reason, I wasn't able to show some of the stuff here.
Okay.
But I can show them off my laptop. But to get to the exact points of an ADA compliant type look and feel, we basically we always knew that our technology could handle multiple files in the same file format. But we didn't. The ADA compliant part of it didn't really come to our attention until the last couple of weeks. There's no doubt in my mind we can make that work. In fact, I have talked to our technology guys. There's no doubt in their minds either. We've already mapped out a lot on the board on how to do that. There's some questions that we have that we're going to have to get some expertise on that to make sure that we do the right stuff, because we have to educate ourselves a little bit on the browsers that are being utilized by the disability community.
So one of the things that I want to address is, what companies are you outreaching to that are already tailoring to this specific population?
We haven't started yet.
Okay.
And I was actually, Adina, whenever we started talking, Adina is reaching out to you, and that's kind of where we're kind of leaning.
Well, absolutely, and that's something that from my point of perspective is, it is a great idea that you have WordPress as a focus point, as a plugin tied into that. But what really is stressing me is that it's crucially important to target a specific companies that are actually outreaching in this space. Now, you mentioned about the 10,000. I'm surprising that number is low for this region. Is there?
Well, when you consider 40%.
Well, where do you find those? Where do you find these numbers? Is it online? Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I found them through WordPress itself. They've got a list of every WordPress user group in the world, and so I was able to go in and look at just see what's going on in the North Texas area.
Okay, so North Texas, these users are who are these users?
they're members of a WordPress users group.
Okay.
So that 11,000 does not mean that's all there is.
Okay.
Believe me, I know that, because not everybody is a user group member.
Okay.
So, you could probably triple that.
So this is a plugin.
Yes. It's a
Okay.
plug-in, and yeah, it's going to be a plug-in and then a widget so you can add it to your pages.
So this can be added to a company, it could be added to any website, pretty much.
Be added to a domain, yes.
Okay. And then.
That's how we sell it. It'll be licensed to domains.
Okay. And so you're working on becoming ADA compliant. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, can you get into specific as to why do you, what came to that calculation for such investments? And can you just get into more specific detail? I saw the sheet, but can you get into more specific detail? Why do you need such increased investment to further to what you're trying to provide?
Because there's a lot of different applications that have to be developed, not just the widget and the plug-in. We're going to improve upon our desktop applications and they have to be done for not just the Mac and not just for the Windows environment, but also for Macintosh. We're also looking at we're going to have a user experience. We're going to have a user experience person to help us make sure that this is all it's done
So
well.
providing staff.
Yes, this is for staff. I figured that we're going to have a need of up to 10 to 11 people by the end of the year.
Okay. That's all I have.
So.
I'll just say on the presentation from an end user and from a B2B perspective, just trying to understand exactly what you're doing was really kind of confusing for me. I'm still lost as to really honestly what the hell the purpose of the thing is. I have 151 websites, probably 80% of those are on WordPress. I choose not to build my own just because it's time consuming, so I have people that build them. And I'm just not understanding where the benefit is. Like what is this helping me? What is this technology going to help me do or help my developers? Is it going to help them build something faster? Is it going to build something better? Because everything that I do is moving toward video. Every platform out there is moving toward video experience. Video gets more engagement than photos. There's 250 million stories uploaded every day on Snapchat and Instagram, and everything is going video. And it seems like we're taking a step backwards, if I'm understanding this correct, by having a still image with audio behind it. I'm just not understanding what the value proposition or how this is going to help anything that we're doing.
Let's see. I do know that everything there is that tendency that things are going to video. A lot of it's going to video, and my contention, especially in an e-commerce environment, is that video is not. They don't want video in an e-commerce website because you may have tens of thousands of products, where each one of those products could be. If you had videos for all that, you'd have to worry about that, and that's a lot of content. So by doing what we're doing, you could have somebody talk about the product, and then that. Plus, by doing the ADA compliant thing, we will have alt tags with text in it, so that the text can be displayed however it needs to be displayed based on use of different plugins that are already either in the site because of ADA compliancy, or different browsers will use those alt tags differently for their audience. But not everything, my contention is not everything has to be a video, and especially in an e-commerce environment. And I would think that like the example I was showing on the New Balance shoe, you could actually create an ad around that shoe that's a lot better than that. The video, if you had a video for it, which they do, the video's always at the last of the page. You don't see it. They keep it away because they really don't want to stream it in a big e-commerce site. So with this, you could put it at the top. You could actually hear somebody recommend the product, and it's the same size basically as an image because it's less than a megabyte.
So it's going to help speed up the development process of the
Oh,
e-commerce sites?
and from a developer standpoint, it's going to be tremendously time saving because you don't have to have a database behind it to support the image, the audio, and the text, and bring them all together in sync because it's already done in the file. The file already has it all synced up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I find this very interesting too because I'm not a video person. I can't sit still. I have ants in my pants, and I just can't sit still long enough to watch a video. I don't watch TV. I don't do any of that. So, if I could just look at a picture and hear while I'm reading other stuff and listening to it, that would be much better for me. So I like this idea a lot. There's no competition. Do you have competition out there, or you didn't
The only
mention
one that we
that?
found was a guy up in Massachusetts, and his technology basically stacks the files one right after another, so they're easily decoded by other means, and whereas ours, all the data bytes and bits are blended together in a unique algorithm that we have, and that's not patented. We're not patenting our algorithm. We're just patenting the process, and so because that's our secret sauce, so to speak.
Okay.
You can't decode our file unless you have the decoder, you know. And we are going to make the decoder. We've been talking about how we're going to do that, and probably make the decoder available for everybody to have. It's the encoding process and the use of the plugins and the widgets that will be licensed.
So it's going to be real user friendly. I have, not like you, but I have like 12 websites, and all of ours are WordPress, and I have a guy that works for me that is an expert in WordPress, and he goes to one of those WordPress user groups, and so he keeps us all updated and everything else like that. So it's going to be easy for somebody just to jump in and plug it in and use, so like WordPress is. So, okay, so that's good, because you get in all these others, it's way too complicated. So how are you going to train? Are you going to have like your own videos to train these
we'll be
WordPress
doing
people,
that.
or is that part of the money you're raising to have
Yes,
an
actually, yes, I
education?
have.
So,
Yes, it is.
you know, because a lot of people who use WordPress, they do it themselves. So somebody's going to have to train them how to use this. So that's part of your program?
Yes, and we're going to try to automate our support as much as possible. But yes, we have a guy who's been on the support side, software support side for
Okay.
decades, who's going to be part of our team.
Okay, well, great.
And so-
Okay, well, I wish you luck. This is great.
All right.
First of all, great technology. I like the idea. I think you're onto something. Not quite sure where it might go, but my questions are going to be first, why are you only going B2B? Why wouldn't you do B2C? And I'm going to tell you why my question is that first. So,
Well, we did look at immediately doing a social media version, which we basically the app that we have right now is really, that's what it is. We don't promote it because we don't want to be like Snapchat was in the very first early days. We can't afford to, first of all, because they might have been forgiving, years ago if you crashed your servers. But
Not
no one's going to
today.
be forgiving today if we upset that.
so
The model would take about. I had a business plan for that. It was going to take almost $7 to $8 million just to have, so that we can be ready to turn the servers on as fast as we can turn them on. we take off.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think from a social media standpoint, I think it really could take off.
You're right, because the meme game right now is huge, and
Yeah.
I can see you being the meme king, being able to put a still image out and put whatever audio behind that image and just put it out there. Grandmothers around the world would love you. So I can tell you, because I send pictures to my son every day, and my mom was like, I wish he was saying something. So I can see where this could go in that social aspect. So I kind of like the consumer side of this a little bit more than I do the B2B, but I got a few more questions, and maybe you can answer this. So do you have patents on the compression process as well? Because
We're not compressing.
okay.
We're blending the files. So that, but that's where the patent is on
Okay,
is on
'cause
that process.
I was getting ready to ask, so is it two separate patents in a sense? Because it sounds like that can be a business all of itself, because I have an issue right now with just trying to send files. So if I had a way to send files, compress them quicker, get them out, and it had audio and an image behind it, because of my business, I deal with veterinarians, and they would love to be able to send a X-ray and with audio behind it, so I can see. Are you looking into that area?
Oh yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
we have a one of our potential customers will be, or not, I shouldn't say potential, he will be a customer. Is a doctor,
Okay.
and he wants this for his customers, and so he can communicate with them, and them with him. So,
Okay, okay. So the mobile aspect, tell me a little bit about your end game. What are you actually looking to do with this?
we want to generate so much. We want this thing to take off in a way that I think it could take off, and get the attention of a lot of players. We've already one of the things about being ADA compliant is that everybody that would use our plugin for that purpose, it enhances their website status as far as SEO goes. I actually I've been communicating with a senior engineer at Google on how they do the searches, and he said that yes, if your site is ADA compliant, it will rise above anybody else's site that's not. So in the search engines, it does add weight to it.
Okay.
So there's a benefit there. So the more people like that start paying attention to us eventually, and because if we do sell a whole lot of plugins, then yes, a lot of people will start paying attention to us, and we could become a buyout target. And that's kind of where we think we will be, probably 3 or 4 years from now, maybe sooner. But I would love to see us get to a revenue stream of 3 or 4 or 5, $10 million or something, and then somebody comes and say, hey, we want to buy you, and then then I'm not even going to talk about what our patent attorney said. So anyway, about that.
My last question. So where do you think your initial focus if you got this capital right now, where are you going to focus your business as far as your customers? Is it going to be strictly trying to go B2B? Is that where you're looking at this?
Yes,
right now?
we want to get this one going, because we look at this as being, like I said, the audience out there is, hundreds of thousands of, millions of websites. We don't need everybody to jump on this, but it'd be nice to have a bunch of e-commerce sites, and it'd be great if we could get. And we have some people that are working with us right now that have good contacts with Amazon, and we would love, at the right moment, if we have this thing going, we could go talk to them about how they could use this for advertising and marketing on their sites.
Thank you.
So are you getting epiphany reactions when people see this project?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. Yes.
Yeah. So let me ask you, most of these folks here have talked about the product a lot. Let me talk about the finance. Okay, so you're talking about looking for 660,000 to $1 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
So all the people that have helped you design the product, were they on salary or were they sweat equity?
A lot of it's been sweat equity. There's been some salary too.
Yeah. All right. So for 660,000, what does an investor get?
Right now, they would get. We have our stock at 50 cents a share. About 1.23 million shares, 1.4 million shares, somewhere in there.
Okay. And for 660,000, how many shares does he get?
Well, that's what it'd be around.
Right,
there.
I get it.
Okay.
Right, he would get that much.
Yes.
And you're sharing the business with all the people that are helping you develop it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, when we start doing the addition on that, that could be a concern, especially if you have to bring on 11 more projects.
Well, yeah, we do. What I've set aside right now, we've set aside 1 million shares. Or I should say, we set aside around 600,000 shares for future team members, and that's what we have right now. We're hoping not to have to issue more shares, but if we have to, we will. But we're hoping we don't have to do that. We started out with 10 million shares. We'd kind of like to hope. We think we can actually do this, and with the limited number of investors that we have, and we think this thing could take off.
Yeah, but if you have to print more shares, then you're talking about a devaluation.
Yes, I know, and we don't, like I said, I don't, the only reason why we would have to do that is if we had to devalue what we're selling for right now, we don't,
Right.
so.
Well, it's one of these kind of things that I think can work, but it could also go bottom. But if you do very well with this, you could have a procure within 3 years. So, good luck.
Thank you.
Share with me the sources of revenue, where your revenue from?
The revenue is going to be coming from license sales. So we'll be selling basically it's a domain. So the domains will be, I can bring that slide back up. Where'd it go? That's not it. What slide is it? I'll be darned. I didn't, huh. Well, basically, the revenue is going to be coming from the license sales. So we're going to be selling we're going to be pushing it first to the web developers and WordPress developers. And what we found is, talking to the WordPress developers, they usually have 5 to 10 sites that they're managing. If they're an individual, they have 5 to 10 websites they're managing usually. And in some cases, like some of the panelists here, they have they could be managing, 12 to 20 or 100, So you'll be buying in bulk. So the price starts out at, and I discounted it at 30%, and I think I have a slide in here for that. But we started out basically discounting it. It was starting out at $69, and we're selling them for 30% less than that. Around $43 a license, down to depending on how many you buy, it can be like I've already reached out to one of the big groups that that has over 500,000 subscribers. Who license their products through their WordPress, they do WordPress plugins, and they have 500,000 subscribers paying $69 a month for their services. And if we could get our product into that group for even $3 for the whole year, that's $1.5 million of revenue for us. So we're looking to those kind of people too for revenue.
What do you see as your 3 biggest challenges?
The biggest, the number one challenge is going to be us getting out there and mixing into the WordPress user group community, and that's where we need to be focused while we're doing all this behind the scenes work and getting the requirements down, getting ready to start coding it and that kind of stuff. We're out there meeting with the actual customers who are going to be taking this in, so that we make sure that we build the right product for them. But I see us being able to accomplish all of this in the next 4 to 6 months, and within 6 months be selling this thing. Within 4 or 5 months, actually be selling the plugins. Our version 1 will be, and after that we'll be rolling out different versions of our software and upgrading as we come up with new features and new plugins.
What do you feel it will do to your progress towards success if you don't get your patent?
I don't think it's going to do. I don't think it's actually going to impact us. I've talked to the patent attorney about that, and he said there's nobody out there that we would be stepping on, really. That could come after us, really. So he said with our algorithm, nobody can do that. I mean, they'd have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to break our algorithm. So we could still move forward without it.
That's all for me.
Tell me your role in the company.
I'm kind of the acting COO. which means all of us basically have temporary titles because depending on who the investors are, they may want their own COO in there. They may want, different people. So we're open to that too. So.
And what's your most recent experience?
My background is I've worked in the operations side of ad agencies as either a general manager in the production areas or a technology director in production for ad agencies or a project and product manager for agencies on software development. Also, I've worked in a number of startup companies, software companies. The last one I worked in was a company called Zillahu, and they ended up merging with another company.
Okay. Just for my clarification, at one point you're talking about the encoding and decoding is on an app, and at another point you're talking about a widget in
WordPress.
In WordPress. Do you have to have something yourself to read these things or see them, hear them?
You'll be able to create your see here file. You'll be able to create it on your mobile devices, as well as so you take a picture, you load it to your computer, and you can use the desktop application and merge the files there.
But when a user is looking at a website and they want to hear the message behind a picture, they don't need an app or anything for that?
No, because it's taking place. It's server side. It's been on the server. It's being decoded and placed on the page through that widget.
Okay, so that is through the widget. Wanted to make sure I understood. Yeah. And then you talked about an investor that, say, one investor comes in with $650,000. You said that's roughly 1.2 million shares. What percent of the company is that?
That's 12%, roughly.
So the 120,000 initial gets the.
Oh no, yeah, it'd be 660 would be 1.2 million shares. Yeah, so that's about 12%.
That's 12% of the company, and so the owners keep the 88%.
No, we have right now we have about 19 investors and we've raised like $140,000 through that.
So the 140,000 gets 88%, and the owners, and then the.
No, and then we have 600,000 set aside, for.
So they only get 12%.
Right now, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, that's my questions. Let's go to advice, and remember, you can't speak. Dylan, start with the advice, please.
Thanks, Charles. I just want to say thank you for presenting this. I have different comments to say about this, but I do believe that this is a disruptive field. And one of the things that I have a couple WordPress sites, and I'm fortunate to work with him. And but one of the things that I want to share with you is that we're in dire need of people developing new technologies, new plugins to increase the ADA compliance for businesses across the board, whether you're an organization or you're in a business. That's number one. Number two, I really hope that I was hoping to get an actual beta perspective from it. And to me, I'm hands-on. I like to know what I'm getting into. And so, and the reason I say that is there are a lot of organizations, specifically disability organizations, most notably the United States Business Leadership Network. And there are many corporations. There was probably roughly over 100 corporations, and many of them are here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm well connected with them. And one of the things they're always looking into is, a couple years ago, I attended a conference where speech-to-text, text-to-speech kind of plugins. And it's so impressive to see that hands-on experience. I really think you guys need to, today, focus on businesses that actually target disability populations, specifically those with vision impairments. WordPress is long-term vision, but today I think with the beta users targeting local disability organizations for their websites, as well as for businesses involved in disabilities, you will have not only supporters, but you will also have them to be great critiquers for your platform. I was also, and I'm looking at your PowerPoint, and I can tell you right now, from a visual accessibility standpoint, I couldn't see, and I couldn't see this presentation. And so for me, I'm, it was difficult. But I appreciate your, presentation, and yes, you are disruptive. Thank you for presenting yourself. And I do think that, and I'm in a culture of investing people and in ideas, not necessarily investing money, but investing in ideas and really giving you the core connections and the resources to get there. And also one last thing I want to mention, you guys really need somebody that is disruptive and influencer in the disability space.
Oh, well, I agree with that.
And so, but really, that spokesperson that can really lead you that connection, and then really make sure that the process is involved. When you say staff, you want to bring in all these people, really you need to bring somebody that has that experience and that expertise. You do have passionate people that are involved in this space, but you need somebody who's well connected in that space. So that's all my comments.
Awesome. I agree with you. I think that you do need to be in the B2B space. I don't think that consumers are going to pay for it. I mean, memes are great, and I agree with you to an extent. However, Facebook's new algorithm is suppressing memes. They don't like people sharing them. They call it useless information. They're trying to get more to really connect people, and you can't ignore the largest social platform out there. So there's just so many changes that happen on social media. Those algorithms change what they do and don't allow. So I think you're on the right track with the B2B space. What I will say is that my advice again is to work on the presentation, because it's really confusing. It's a little bit cumbersome. I'm not really seeing the value proposition there. I don't know if you're, I think maybe a better salesperson, pitch guy up there, like he was saying. I agree there. Because there's still a lot of questions of, how do you get the audio behind the image? What affects the quality? I think a lot of that has to do with beefing up the presentation to kind of help us. Is it going to autoplay? Is it not going to autoplay? How is that going to affect websites? And then I think, if this technology is going to help e-commerce, like you say, and it's going to, they don't want to put videos on e-commerce sites because it takes up a lot of space. I'm going to want to see some sort of a case study to show, here's an e-commerce site that uses our technology, here's one that uses photos, here's one that uses videos. Look at the difference in the sales between these, because just to say that people would rather listen to an audio behind an image, I'm not buying it. That's it.
Okay. Again, the presentation, it's a little overwhelming because it's so broad. I need something more direct to the point. This is how it does, and of course, seeing the application work and how it works and why it works is so impressive on somebody that wants to understand this. And I think when you go into these WordPress groups, these guys are really going to want a dog and pony show. They want, action to see this. So that's something you're going to have to work on to get these people. And then also, I didn't really study your budget so much, but you really have to have education on this, because it is a new way of thinking, a new way of developing, a new way of seeing things on the internet. So you're going to have to educate people and educate these developers and people that build these websites and do this stuff, and then the consumer that owns the website, the business and consumers or whoever it is, of why they need this and how this is going to enhance. So you have to, work on selling them why they need you, because they're doing okay right now without it. So that's what my advice is.
Thank you, Kathy. Again, so presentation was good. We probably can do a little bit more enhancement on a few things, but what I would really want you to kind of talk about a little bit more and get more in depth with would probably be your name, See Here. You didn't talk about the name. I kind of like that name, See Here, and I was just looking at your logo. You may want to enhance it just a little bit. I like the aspect. I was looking at it. It's an eye and an ear together combined, so I saw that. I see where you're going with that. So branding is something I think you guys need to work on just a little bit more, enhance that, because I do like the name. I can see where you're going with the logo, so that's a little bit of advice in that aspect. When it came to me speaking about the memes, and I do agree with them when they were saying about the meme situation is, you see a lot of social media platforms trying to stop that process, but what I'm more so speaking of is you creating your own mobile app to be the servicer of those apps, in a sense like the Facebooks, the IGs, the Pinterest. You create your own mobile app and then be able to share your product, whatever it is you're selling. Like my mom sells these designer pens. So if she was speaking behind her picture and can share that to Pinterest and share that to Facebook and share that to IG, there's your value. So I think a customer would buy that and use that if it was $10 a year or 99 cents a month or something of that nature, to be able to utilize that app to put my product out into the public space without having to, use the Facebook app or use anything. I can create it and do everything I want to do to it. So that's my advice on that. I think you need to look a little bit deeper into that B2C thing, because I think there's a lot of people out here, small business entrepreneurs, people who are trying to get out here and get their business in a different method. I think that people would use this. They would definitely look at using it from that perspective. In regards to the WordPress and upselling that, I think you're definitely on to something. I would probably look at maybe doing a shotgun approach with the upsell, and here's what I mean by that. The Amazons, the Groupons, the Etsy's, and all these other companies that are out there, I could see them using your service as an upsell. Like you get it for free, and then if you want audio behind each one of your images, here's your premium package that you get by using Amazon or Groupon. So I think if you look at when you sell your product to them, pitch it to them that they need to add this as just another upsell. So they're making money, you're making money from that perspective. So that's my 2 cents on that. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. And then I would actually really seriously focus on this area that I'm getting ready to speak on right now, and this is the medical. And I'm not talking about just human, I'm talking about also from veterinarian aspects. There's tons of technology out here right now, and just here recently, I think probably in the last year, if you notice that telemedicine is happening on a high level. And with telemedicine, you're not going to always have video. You're going to have x-ray. You're going to have a shot. My kid broke his arm. You want to take a picture of it, and you want to be able to tell the doctor, he was doing this when this happened, here's a picture of it, and send it off immediately. That is huge from a telemedicine standpoint, especially when you're saying this happened, emergency, you're shooting this image to your doctor that you're on your way to go see. So those are my pieces. Again, that's my advice. So turn it over to you.
Good. All right. I certainly believe that you really need to work on the marketing side of this, and I think it needs to be better explained. I believe he's right about finding an expert in that field to be your representative to take you into the various markets. I think you might want to reconsider your investment amount and raise enough cap up front that as you bring these designers on board that you're not diluting the stock of the company. That's just a suggestion.
My biggest suggestion would be to find you an expert at raising money and let them raise the capital for you. It's like heart surgery takes a little education and expertise, so does raising capital. And I think you need that. When you say $600,000 to generate revenue, it would be nice to know how that would be spent and how long it would take. And when you say $1 million in self-sufficiency, what does that really mean? And again, how would you spend it and how long would it take? I like the concept of what you do. I don't have the knowledge in computers and the internet to understand how you get there. But to be able to send a picture with a story behind it would be a great thing for consumers.
So Jesse, good job on the presentation. I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited about your company, I think, but not because of necessarily what you said. And let me explain what I'm talking about. I go to lawyer conferences to learn my industry and to not have to hire lawyers, basically. And in our last section, the last one that I went to, they went into great depth about how your website has to be ADA compliant, and that there are people that are going out there looking at websites all over the place and initiating lawsuits if your website is not ADA compliant. And I believe that's what you're fixing here. And you didn't really talk about the legal risks and how many websites are out there that aren't ADA compliant and what their potential costs and risks are, because I know when I'm defending a lawsuit, I'm looking at $100,000 minimum as a company just to defend it, and I don't know what kind of settlements they're talking about. $50,000 to $100,000 per violation, or some I forget the exact number, but it was a big number, and that's what I'd really be focusing on. As an investor, I'm going to invest in you before I'm going to invest in, or her, as the case may be. I'm going to invest in you guys. Probably I'm going to put more weight in you than I am on the business idea. Yeah, I got to be excited about the business, but I'm mainly going to invest in you and whether or not I believe that you can take the business where you want it to go. And I didn't hear anything about her, and I had to ask about you. So I would put a little focus in your presentation about who you are, what you're going to do. As an investor, you turn me off when you say, well, if an investor comes in, they may not want any of us. And that's that's a turn off for me particular, and I may be alone there, but I'm lazy. If I'm going to invest money, I'm investing in you to make it work. I don't want to go in there and make it work myself. And I know a lot of private equity companies, that's what they want, is they'll put their own people in there. But at least the angel investors I know, they want to bet on, and the term I always, Jay Rogers, one of our mutual friends, always says is he's betting on a racehorse, and you're the racehorse, and I don't want to have to go in and run your company, or I'm not going to be there. So I suggest you put more emphasis on you and your founder and what you bring to it, and why you're that racehorse that's going to win this battle for me. You didn't talk a lot about your pricing. I think it's, especially if you don't have any competition, my initial take is you are way underpricing your products. If there are really, and I may be selling this for you, and you may not even be solving this problem, but if you are truly solving the ADA compliant issue on websites, and you are really the only one out there that has this solution, I think you're really undercutting your prices. If a developer is only going to pay $130, that's way too cheap. I would look heavily at your pricing instead of needing, I forgot what the number was, 20,000 customers. You may really only need 2,000 if you price it correctly, in my own opinion. The last thing I'll give here, and I say this in almost every presentation, and that is, if personally as an investor, I go back to what Jay Rogers taught me, and that was you either have to have liquidity or control in an investment. If I'm going to put in $660,000 into your business and you've raised $140,000 of it, I'm going to have control at least until I have my money out of risk, or I'm not going to do it. If I'm going to put all of that in there, the 12% to me, out of that's 80 or 90% of the money you're raising, the only getting 12% equity seemed really low, to where I wouldn't even bother negotiating with you. So those are my off the top of my head thoughts. One thing we like to do and like to say at the boardroom is that this is a great practice environment because we're forgiving. If you do this to most angel investors, they're not going to tell you any of this. They're going to listen to what you have to say, and they're going to say, no, thank you, and they're not going to tell you why. So I believe a good point of us is that we can tell you what your issues are. You can go fix them and come back and not be totally out because of it. We're going to go, ladies, if you would get the microphones going, we're going to go to the audience now. So we'd love to hear what you think. Please make sure you stand up, face that camera, and speak into the microphone.
Speak into the microphone.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Johnson again, and I am on the advisor board for See Here. I have held positions as innovation director or manager for very large companies, and I have to tell you that it's rare to see a real innovation. Most things are just repackaged. This is a real innovation in technology. And one of the things I wanted to tell you is that there is an app. You can go to the App Store right now, download See Here, and you can use it. So if you want to put your hands on it, do that right now.
Did you have advice? This is advice.
Yeah. The way that we see this going is that we revolutionize almost every industry we touch. And so I'd like for people to think about this like, for example, in the real estate industry, every picture on Zillow has a voice behind it with a inference of excitement. So I think people are better off when they hear that behind the picture. And I don't think people have a long time to look at videos. I agree with you.
Great job. Great job. I enjoyed the presentation. Again, Mark Finner with Rise Performance Group. My advice is, I think the riches are in the niches. And I think when you talked about all the WordPress, excuse me, you're talking about the masses. And I would just encourage you, it kind of piggybacks on what she said, and what others have said, but bring the specific examples so you can tell the story of where it's really making an impact. And I think that would help us all see it better. But great job. Thank you very much.
Hi, Doug Bacon here. I have a couple of questions here. Okay. Where
No
do you get
questions, only advice.
Huh?
No questions, only
Oh,
advice.
okay. Then practice your presentation. I think you should look at Shark Tank and watch their presentation. I wasn't really that impressed by the presentation. I like the product, I like the idea. I think you should sell her and sell your company. I don't think you should play down the people in your company by saying to the investor, like you mentioned a minute ago, about, well, y'all can get your own people. If an investor comes in, he may want to get different people. I think you should also come out with a specific amount that you want to charge for the product and stay steadfast on that. You may get an investor that says, nope, can you cut that or can you do this? But that shows that you're very confident in your market, in your product. When can we ask questions?
Nope.
When, though?
Afterwards.
Okay.
Anyone else? Not Colin?
I just want to mimic what some of the other people said. I really think you need to work on your presentation. I was a little bit lost. And Dylan, I think you hit it on the head. If we could see an actual example, that would really help. I agree 100% with Charles on the fact that investors invest in the people and the team. So you do have to build your team up. I think that's extremely important. My other advice is that you get a lunch scheduled with Cedric. He is brilliant, and I think that the medical space would be a great space for you. And my last piece of advice is that you also request a lunch with Charles. Thank you.
One of the things that wasn't clear from your presentation was one of the things that wasn't clear from your presentation was what you're focused on first, what you're focused on second, and so forth, and how that ties to revenue. In addition, the different areas that you do want to focus on, that you decide to focus on, you need to think about pricing, I think, around that specific area. So as you look at, somebody mentioned niches, for example, each of those niches are going to have price points that are specific to that niche. You need to understand how your pricing works to that niche. And to Charles' point, some of those niches will allow you to have a much higher price point. So in those areas, you can make a larger margin, and then other areas, you may make a smaller margin. So.
My thing was, if you do get this into WordPress and you do get a plugin for this going, I'd try, as a developer myself, I'd want some type of free trial or some way to try this out since it's new. I don't know what it's going to be used for exactly, but if it's a way that I can go in without putting down money first, that'd be a great way. And if it is a trial, that's great. Give me full features. Let me work with everything you have to offer. If it's not, you can't do that. Limit the capabilities of the plugin itself, such as the time on the audio or the limit of the file size. Just give me a way to play with it and see what I can do with it.
Anyone else? Well, Jesse, thank you for your presentation. I just want to say, I would definitely, I agree with some of what everybody said. I think people like simplicity. And when things are more complex, they don't really understand them. I was a little lost until I heard Cedric ask the questions and I started to get it. But you know, I would definitely add a story coming out. And when you started it, you played a video. But I know stories sell and facts tell. And I think it's the story. If a person can see themselves in that story in the first 30 seconds or so, capture the attention. I love what Ms. Johnson just said, capture my attention immediately, and not so much techie. I didn't understand at first if this was a B2B or B2C, and still kind of confused on which one, you know, you're really going after. But, you know, as far as working on the presentation, yes, so people see your confidence when you're speaking, and you know, you have a standard, and you represent that. So on behalf of the audience.
So Jesse, now you get to speak and you get 3 minutes to address anything that you heard in advice.
I appreciate the advice, and I definitely want to talk to Cedric a lot more, and Dylan, for sure, about the ADA and also medical. As far as the pricing, I intentionally didn't put the pricing up on the screen because it is, I guess, in flux. So because there, you know, that's. But I've played with the different models, and I thought I think we can make money at them. But I like your advice. Maybe we can raise it some more. I've talked to different developers who say, you know, they don't want to pay more than $99 for a plug-in or something. I've heard that. So, but that's just a few people. Let's see. I can't think of my mind. But I do appreciate the advice, and I'm definitely going to take it to heart. And the team, I'm glad Adina and Rhonda were here because I'm hoping they're taking some notes, mental notes for me, and for us, for the team, and so.
Well, Jesse, you took a lot of tough questions. You took a lot of tough advice, and you stood up here and gave good answers. So thank you for your job.
Thank you.
Very, very good job. Give Jesse a big round of applause. And in case you're wanting to do anybody in the audience is wanting to do a presentation, I believe we're open for the next session. Doesn't have a presenter yet, so we do. Oh, I'm sorry. We have July, and we're working on August then, I guess. I can't remember my first name sometimes. So, well, we look forward to your presentation next month then, and we'll set a date shortly and have that on the calendar. I'm sorry. We even have a date already. What would I do without you? Well, if you don't have it right up, you'll tell. You know it. 10 of July. July 10th. So we're coming up pretty quick, right after 4th of July. Okay, July 10th is our next presentation. That's coming up pretty quick. So we'll see you on July 10th. Please hang out, network with people. If you have more advice for Jesse or any of his team or have questions for them, please do go ahead and ask. Thanks for tuning into the boardroom. See you next time.